If this is your first time at Colorado Career Connectors, we welcome you, and we are so blessed to have a strong community. This marks year 2. We started in March of 2021, and we have helped over 1,700 people in our community, in our nation, and even around the world, people from Africa and Latin America and EMEA, or Europe and the Middle East. I'm so honored to be the CEO and founder of Colorado Career Connectors. And if I haven't met you personally, I'd love to meet you at some point. My name is Chelle Johnson, and I started my own business in 2019. I came from corporate. I was the head of talent acquisition and talent development at Comcast. Before that, I worked at Lockheed Martin as a senior leader. And I just got to a point in my career where I myself was asking, what is my next chapter going to look like? And how do I get over this fear, like deep-seated, soul-centered fear of taking that next step? And how do I be my best self, my true best self in that next chapter? And so today, I hope that you will get out your pens, your pencils, your cell phones. This will be recorded. This will be sent out to you with notes of how you can contact me and actually how you can contact Tonia. We will have our nuggets of information in here for you. And so are you guys ready to get started? Michaela's saying yes. I see a lot of you are still not on your Zoom cameras. Come on, we don't care. Tonia, hello.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet everyone.
Yes, also, Tonia Slovin, welcome. It's so nice to have you. I still see a lot of cameras that are not on. We don't care if you're eating. We don't care if your hair is like this. We honestly do not care. What we care about is that you get the content that you need, that you have a support system and a professional development system that lifts you up, that gives you motivation and gives you real nuggets to take into your week to be more productive, to be better, and to truly have the courage. In fact, this morning I pulled a card and it was all about courage. And courage comes from the French word that means heart. I don't speak French, I speak Spanish. So corazón, courage. True courage is when you can speak your truth and you know in your heart what you want to ask for. So I hope today that we are able to give you questions so that you can do some journaling and really dig deep into what does your next chapter look like. All right. I am an executive recruiter as well as an executive career coach. I help men and women all over the United States and the world to increase their career clarity, their courage, and their confidence. This next chapter question is one that I asked myself. It's one that students coming out of college are asking now. In your life, whether if you're starting out of high school or out of college, or you have 3 to 5 years and you're like starting in a relationship and you got married and like you're not like, now what? Or you're in your 30s and you've been there, done that. You've done what everybody's told you that you should be doing. And you're thinking, what's my next chapter? Not just for your life, but for your career and for your spirituality and for all of that well-rounded piece. Today, we're going to focus on career, but I know all of you have asked that question. Think about it when you're in your 40s and your kids are maybe in, or your partner, you guys are at a different level. What's next for your relationships? What's next in your 50s when maybe your kids are going to college? Or even your 60s when everybody's telling you, oh, are you going to retire? And you're like, hell no, because I have too much energy, right? Ronette, I see you thinking your head there, right? I see you. or you're in your 70s and you should be, and you want to do part-time, right? What is your next chapter? So for each of our generations, Tonia and I are going to talk to you about that today. Before I introduce Tonia, I want to bring to your attention an article that was written in the Denver Business Journal. It was from, let's see. Liquid Workforce. And so many people that have had enough of corporate or have had enough as attorneys, lots of attorneys, or if you're a teacher, or if you come from a teaching environment, right? Or you come from an environment that's kind of like struggling right now. How do you find your next chapter? I just wanted to highlight this article because it's talking about leaning into the liquid workforce. I am a fractional talent consultant, which means for small to medium-sized businesses that can't afford a full-time recruiter, I work 12 hours a week for a company. I work 8 hours a week for a company. I've been able to build my clientele that way. And I'm an executive career coach, and I own Colorado Career Connectors, which has grants. So diversification of your revenue flow. Do you have rental homes? Are you part of Airbnb? Do you want to be a consultant that you don't know how? Reading articles like this and then connecting with the people that are in the articles. About a half an hour ago, I just sent notes to all of these people that were quoted because they're in the fractional market. And I want to know them. And I'm letting you know this because these are nuggets of how you can, if you want to find something different, how do you network? So we're going to talk about that as well. And then I'm going to recommend, actually, there's a webinar that a friend of mine is putting on for interest interviews and networking later this week. So I'll have the link for you. Okay, let's get started. We are super excited to have Tonia with us. But before that, if you don't know Yvette Bell, she is my director of operations. She does all of my branding, my graphics, my logos, my slides. If you are a consultant, if you are thinking about becoming a consultant and you need a graphic designer, a brand consultant, every single person I refer her to loves her. So just a quick shout out to Yvette. She does an amazing job, and hopefully she's still on. She's in that area of California that, like,
I'm here.
the snow is higher than their power lines right now, right? Okay. Tonia Martinez and I met about a year ago, and this is an example of how we lift each other up. Tonia and I are in very similar environments, yet there's enough space for all of us. And when I found out what she was doing, I'm like, I have to have her on Colorado Career Connectors. Tonia is the founder of Career Transformation. It's a recruiting firm and an outplacement firm. And she's highly involved with the Society of Human Resource Management. She's worked in for-profit and nonprofit. And we decided to come together today because partly what her clients hear also is, what is your next chapter? Tonia, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and then start our presentation.
Thank you so much, Chelle, for having me, and nice to meet everybody. Thank you for joining today. So I started my career 26 years ago, about 26, 27 years ago on the HR side of the world. And I started at the bottom and I worked my way up and around within HR. There's so much to do in HR and so much to learn. So it was really a rewarding career for me. And 4 years ago, I decided to jump ship and go out on my own, which was a very bold move because I had never started a business before from scratch. So same year as Chelle, I started in 2019, right before the pandemic. Couldn't have started at a more perfect time. It's truly a blessing to have the HR background that I did, because it really supported me in my next chapter of what I was about to start doing on my own. I had worked with external recruiters before, but I didn't know how to start a business and get that rolling. So it was a lot of learning in the first, and still today I'm still learning more. So more importantly, I'm doing what I love, and I'm doing, it's in my DNA to help people. I love helping people. Anybody that you can find out that I help them in some kind of way, whether it was support, advice, whatever it may be. My clients and individuals that I work for that are on the job market, those are the relationships that I have day to day, and those are the people that I work with, making sure that I get a good fit for not only the client, but for the candidate on the job market as well. And so I own Career Transformations. We are a recruitment and outplacement firm that delivers a very holistic approach to recruiting and outplacement. We hire employees for our clients through a diverse pool of talent that is sourced from a wide range of avenues. My diversity is in my outplacement group as well. I value diversity. I think that organizations should be more diverse. There's more ideas and, generation of ideas that come with that as well. So the coaches that are in my outplacement program are very diverse because everybody has a desire and a need to work with someone that is like them. And that's, even goes to recruiters and anything that we do in the world. You have to have a connection with someone. You have to get one another. And sometimes an individual may want to work with somebody from their own country. So I think when it comes to that, it's really important to find that right fit, because you'll be more authentic if you find someone that understands you. So in my organization, I'm all about collaboration, and I appreciate Chelle inviting me to participate in this. And it is part of, supporting the same efforts, supporting women in business. I am a small business. I'm a woman-owned business. I'm a minority-owned business owner. So it's very important for me to give back and help women. So you'll see that a lot in my work that I do. Thanks, Chelle. Do you want me to jump right into?
Go ahead.
Slide 5? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So before you start your job search, it's really important that you take the time out to focus on your needs and your desires and your core values in what you want to do next. Being happy is so important for us personally and professionally, but not just for us. It affects our family, the people that, surround our daily lives. And that also includes the team that we work with and the people that manage us and the people that we manage. So when we aren't happy, we become negative. We can become angry and be short with others. It can, mean that we get a little toxic. It can mean that we slowly start to check out. And we all know when we check out, we seek, a lack of motivation to get up in the morning, a lack of engagement on the job with what you're doing. And maybe, you get bored and you're not so challenged in your role. Maybe you don't have respect for certain individuals or have trust in the organization. Maybe you don't feel valued, trusted, or given the autonomy to do your job. So, we may lose our focus and our passion for what we once loved. And when this happens, it starts to get uncomfortable and your performance can fail, and it can be detrimental to you, your family, your success. But there is a bright side, right? Today, I'm going to share some ways that will, I hope, help you become a little bit more prepared for your next chapter and kind of taking that dive. So what does your career path look like for you? Sometimes people will determine how many years they have left to work before retiring. Do you want full-time hours, part-time? Maybe you want to do some contract work and have more control over your schedule. Think about past positions that you've held and tasks that you were responsible for. Did you manage people? Did you like managing people? Is that part of your next role, or are you done? You don't want to manage people anymore. It was a great time in your life. You learned a lot. You've been there, done that, right? So identifying what you want and what you don't want in your next role is important reflection. And be honest with yourself, because it's your career and only you can define your next chapter. So when I think about, I just kind of dissected this a little bit, and culturally, what do you want in your next role? As we know, culture is the beliefs, the customs, it's behavior of a group of people within an environment, a work environment that create, that culture through behavior of everyone working in the organization from the top down. Then you've got the physical environment that also influences work culture, shaped by interactions, attitudes, beliefs, traditions, and values. And we spend a significant time at the office. And so it's really important to make sure that it's a good fit for you from all avenues. It has a huge impact on our lives, and a positive work culture is important for us. Google has consistently won awards for best company culture. You know, they encourage their employees to work when and where they want to. They've given them the freedom to be creative in their work. They have clear core values, and they encourage transparency, transparent communication. But Google also struggles with a lack of diversity within the company. So being able to reflect on past companies that you worked for and evaluating what you loved and what you didn't love about them and why helps you kind of define the cultural fit that's a good fit for you. And if you think about it, you're more engaged, you're happy to go to work, you share this with others, which is a bonus for your employers because you start talking about what's so great, and then before you know it, you're a recruiter for them. So it's a double whammy there. And then if you're working for an organization that gives back to the community, make sure you search for companies and do your research, you know, on the website, and ask questions to learn if they're aligned with that core value that sits within you. DE&I is important to a lot of us. So make sure that, again, you're doing the research, they're meeting the mark of where you want them to be. And then the people that you work with, what kind of leader is important for you? What kind of manager is a good fit for you? You know, do they know how to manage you? Are they aligned with what you're aligned with? That's really important for individuals. And don't be afraid to ask this during the interview process, what the team's like. Maybe you could interview a couple of the team members, and hopefully the interview process will include some of them, but this really gives you an opportunity to ask those direct questions about their experiences with the organization, with the leadership team, why they joined, why they stay, what excites them. I think the more you can interview them just as they're interviewing you, super important. It's no different. And then, as we all know, the work-life balance is really important. You know, it's the state of equilibrium between your professional and your personal lives, and it's managing your time and your priorities between paid work and then those activities outside of work that are important to you. Have hobbies, you know, health, community, family, personal development. And asking yourself, is the career that you're looking for going to allow you to shut it off at the end of the day? Are you taking work home that doesn't fit into your work-life balance? You know, because you go home and you need to be with the kids, or you need to cook dinner. And so making sure that, you know, all of those are meeting the mark and going to make you happy. Is your manager one that encourages that good work-life balance? Is that important to you? Are you going to continue working 60, 70 hours a week, or are you done with that? And then, you know, the ancillary benefits, I think, that we think about, like, is there a wellness program? Do they support, you know, those initiatives, which we'll get into that a little bit more here soon. So, and then also I think we'll see more and more, and we hope to see more and more flexible environments, because we're all seeing the challenges of not only attracting talent, but also retaining that talent. And to me, offering a more remote hybrid option, it always seems like it's easier than it really is. But I think it's important for people to offer this more and more. Many people had to change their lives, you know, through COVID. Childcare options are so different, and just that world is so different now. It's hard to find childcare. It's expensive. And we've all made so many adjustments. And some of those adjustments were permanent and truly have changed the way we do things and how we live. So it's extremely important to know what's going to work for you and your family as you make this change, this next chapter. And don't apply for positions that aren't within that. You know, I know we all need a job and we need, you know, to pay bills, but try your hardest to stay focused on what's going to fit for you. You can always ask in the interview questions, you know, if you are looking for hybrid, maybe they don't offer it in the beginning, but maybe after 6 months, if you prove yourself, you know, you're reliable, dependable, all of that, then maybe that's something they can roll into or offer later. And then you think about money. You know, employees want pay transparency. You know, I think companies have come a long way. But make sure you know your bottom line and that mid-range. Do some basic salary research on the roles as you know, to make sure that you're compensated appropriately. Talk to other recruiters, make sure that the salary is kind of where they think it should be, what they've seen. You know, ask those questions and collaborate with others. Don't just talk to one or two people. Do your own homework and figure it out as well. Look at bonuses, commission structure, other types of pay, and what do those realistically look like from a total compensation perspective? What can you expect from those, and how frequently do they pay out? What other perks and incentives does the company offer that account into your overall compensation? Are they paying for, you know, college tuition, things like that? And then on slide, evaluate yourself. This kind of moving to that next phase of my presentation. When you're at your best, you're doing what you love, you're working with the people that you enjoy working with, that are motivating, inspiring, you know, there's continuous learning. So defining, you know, what does it mean for you to be at your best, I think will really help you. And then also looking at your strengths and how you're going to sell yourself and maximize those. Prepare for that interview process. Take that time out. If you're employed, carving out time to do reflection and preparation is a commitment, and it requires your undivided attention. So sometimes, you know, through your employers, you'll have taken, you know, personality assessments, Myers-Briggs, you know, strengths finders, whatever it may be. Use that content and build upon that to prepare your selling points. Then determine, you know, your strengths and where you need to elaborate, and start jotting down how you've done that in prior roles, how you'll do that in the future. Specify that to the current job description that you're working on. Make sure that you go through and highlight what your strengths are, what your areas of opportunity are, and why you're good at that. Learn how you sell yourself in that space. I was talking to someone today that mentioned this is an area that she, you know, could use some help in. And a lot of times we get stuck in that area. We get in our own ways. So when you map it out and you strategize strengths, areas of opportunity, and then start building those talking points, it helps you then bring that together to that job description, to that company, to that industry, in how you sell yourself, and practice it. Get your phone out. Audio record it for a few takes, and then video record it, and start critiquing yourself and how you can improve that. It really gives you that opportunity to get really good at it. And then I would say if there's any metrics that you could include along the way in strengths of maybe what you've done in the past, how you saved, improved, increased, decreased, whatever it may be, use those as talking points because they go a long way. And then what areas of improvement, you know, I touched on that a little bit, but I think during that process, it gets a little stressful. And if you don't practice it, you'll struggle in clearly defining what you can truly bring. But when you think about, you know, sometimes they say, tell us about your weaknesses. I don't like to think of it as that. It's your areas for improvement or areas for opportunity. Think through where you need to grow, what you want to learn and what you haven't learned or had a chance to do, and then maximize those areas. So don't always think of it as, you know, oh, I suck at Excel. You know, think of it as, you know, I used to be really bad at Excel, but I took some YouTube classes, and through my work, I did this, or through my personal life, I created a budget to learn formulas. So make it a positive and don't ever make it a negative, because it's not. Just dissecting it and really being able to talk through it confidently with still a smile on your face. You never want to think of it as a negative place, but I think sometimes people will also change their tone when they talk about the negative side of it, but always look at the positive and how you change that or improve that. And if you haven't, then figure it out now. How will you? And look at that job description and figure out where an area of opportunity is, dissect it, practice it, and get really good at it and keep that positive tone throughout that section. I think that's really helpful. Let's see here. What else do I want to talk about? I think that's good for right now. We're going to go to slide 7. Thank you for changing. So if you're happy and you have good tenure where you are, but maybe you're not happy about certain aspects of your role, maybe you don't like I recommend you have a conversation with your manager to talk through this. Determine if there's another department for you. You know, if it's management that's not a good fit for you, talk through that, through the whys, and try to rectify any of those concerns on a really positive level. And maybe that one conversation will help if you haven't had it. If you're not happy in your role, determine if there's another department for you. Is there an opportunity to do some kind of swapping of jobs or do some kind of cross-functional learning? If it's pay, talk with your manager and determine if your pay needs to be evaluated. And then I think looking at internal opportunities is a good thing, especially if you're good on pay and, you know, tenure within the organization. Transitioning into a different role is a possibility. You know, you can conduct informational interviews by reaching out to individuals to learn what they do, what they love about it, what they don't love about it, what's a typical workday like, can you job shadow them? You know, I think that's really helpful when it's the environment that accepts that. Being open to starting at the bottom of the department if you have little or no experience. You know, not often do you find people could jump into a role and lower their pay. So keep that in mind. If you come in with no, is it a work-life balance that needs to happen? And what can you reduce, you know, on your personal side of expenses to be able to accommodate that drop in pay if it's truly going to make you happy? Some people will do it. You know, if it's worth your happiness and your work-life balance, it's worth it in my eyes. And then tailor your resume and your cover letter and your LinkedIn profile to really customize kind of that new space that you're looking at going into. Slide 8. So benefit offerings. This is another important piece because you don't want to lose money in the transition if you can help it. You know, the last few years, we've seen an unprecedented change within the workplace and one that continues to shift, you know, in the needs and wants of employees. So look at time off. You know, we all have a set amount of time that we look forward to, that we're accustomed to. You know, we have certain vacations that we go on. That's one factor. Many large companies, including Netflix, Oracle, LinkedIn, they've adopted flexible annual leaves. So looking for time off that is going to fit within your schedule as well, it's important. But knowing that, you know, you may not get that automatically, there are different negotiating spaces that you could, you know, ask for more compensation. Maybe they give time off to do volunteer work and maybe you can subsidize that as vacation time. So, you know, most companies will start with that 2-week kind of basic time off, which is not very competitive in today's market. But take it into consideration, you know, benefits and perks and incentives that they offer that can help kind of balance that out, if you will. And then reviewing the health insurance is also important. If you need, you know, coverage for your spouse or your children, you know, following long-term effects of the pandemic and the ongoing increase of cost of living, there's trends and events around, you know, what workers value most, and perks and benefits are now one of the most favored elements of a job, even over salary increases. So I read somewhere that the number of working parents is rapidly increasing and the employment rate for mothers had grown by 10% in the last 20 years. And with this in mind, it's more important than ever to accommodate working parents, within our organizations. So hopefully organizations will begin providing on-site or subsidized childcare where they can retain a large portion of their workforce and attract a higher percentage of working parents. But knowing what you need, what you want, if you had, cafeteria plans in the past and they work great for you, if there's prescription savings programs, ask all of those questions. And when you think about life insurance, disability coverage, and other benefits with your new employer, know what you had and know what you utilized. Because if you didn't use the benefit, there's no sense in asking for it or wanting it. But rolling over funds from, prior accounts, ask those questions so that you're not losing that money. If they don't know, reach out to a professional, a financial advisor that could really help pinpoint those areas, because you don't want to lose a 10% match, as that will negatively impact your retirement and change the trajectory of your plan. So make sure that, there are rollover options. And if you don't have any, look at your IRA plans and get, closer to that retirement. Let's see, lastly, just, looking at your job training, continuing education, tuition reimbursement, professional certifications, licensures, if your company offered that and they pay for those kind of things, it's really important to, and especially if you're utilizing those benefits, if they're paying for your tuition and you're at the tail end of your master's degree, might not be the right time to make that move, but think about those kind of benefits and those kind of certifications, licensures that you hold, and is it important to keep up? And is it something that you can negotiate in that time, or do you need them to pay for it? So evaluating in that sense is really important, because you don't want to lose too much if you don't have to. Awesome. I think that I've covered a lot. I know I said a lot. So if there are any questions, I don't know. Sorry, we got a dog at home. Oh no, Chelle.
I'm here.
Do you want to jump in while I count him? I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I'm going to keep going. And I know that there was a lot of information there. This has been recorded and we will be sending it out. But some of these things that Tonia's talking about may be overwhelming. And so there are some simple questions that I'm going to go into that, again, we want you to take video, screenshots, write it down, do whatever you need. But these are things that you have to think about. And she just gave you a thorough listing of all of those. So very grateful for that. I'm going to jump into, how do you figure out what your next chapter is? You have to evaluate all of those things. And a couple slides back, we asked 3 simple questions. What do you like when you are at your best? And these might not be linear questions. These are soul-inspired questions to help you start listening to what your, not just your head, because those recordings you have in your head may not have gotten you where you want to be now. And without a doubt that the motivation and the passion and the values you have are leading you in a different direction. When you really lean in to those signposts or those serendipitous moments, what are they telling you? So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, what does a good day look like? What does the right environment look like? Is your next chapter doing something that transferable skills? And how do you lean into those transferable skills? One of the questions here is, how do you know personality assessments can help you? There's lots of them out there. How many of you have taken, like, I know my Hogan, my DISC, my Strength Finders, my et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the way that as an executive career coach that I use them to help people figure out their next chapter is, let's learn where your strengths are and how do you leverage those strengths truly to market yourself, to brand yourself, to move into a career that's aligned or parallel or something totally different. One of my clients has been in compensation and the head of compensation for a really long time. And she is so burnt out. It's creating health issues. And that burnout, she's been cooking more during the pandemic, and she learned that she's amazing at making cupcakes. So she started this side gig of like lollipops and cupcakes. And even though she's not making what she did, she's loving it. She's met other bakers. She's super excited about the British baking show. I know how many of you love that show out there, right? So what are side gigs? Do you like fixing motorcycles? Do you like I want to see in the chat, what does a good day look like for you? You get up, you have more movement, you work out, you're very productive in how you are leveraging your time. If you're not leveraging your time in the right way, what's hijacking you from doing that? What's stopping you from living your best life? I want to know some of the fears that are out there. Fear of, what are people going to think? We're going to get into those questions in just a moment. What is it that you love doing? I absolutely love what I do because I chose faith, and I don't mean religious faith. I chose faith in myself, faith in what I was really good at in corporate. That's coaching people, helping people find jobs, being a master connector. These are things I love doing. I love being able to bring you this content and introduce you to some of the best speakers in the Denver area. I want to know what you love doing. Let's check the chat. Fear of not knowing enough and how to become a consultant. You're sure you're making a difference. Okay, Renette, this article that I told you about in the Denver Business Journal, I'd love for you to read it. I'd also love to chat with you because 38% of my clients no longer are going back to corporate. They're starting their own businesses, successfully starting their own businesses. And those statistics go right along with what's happening. What this article says is that consultants increased 63% from 2019. If you want to be a consultant, then we got to figure out what those skills are. But what do you love doing is that next question. I have another client that is about to sign with me. And because last week she was like, women don't support each other. They just bring each other down. So the first step is getting out of that mindset and that attitude. And I do that through positive intelligence. And there's several people on here who can tell you about that, right? So Tonia talked a lot about things to think about, financial things to think about. These are questions, and I hope that you will take the time to journal on some of these questions. Do you have a side gig that you can turn into a full-time role? I know at least 3 of you on this call used to be the head of recruitment at a different company, and now you've worked with me and partnered with me on some things. Or you are just like my head of compensation and total rewards. She wants to go into baking, or she wants to go back to culinary school. So many times, as people over 40 especially, there's these assumptions that, oh, I can't go back to school, I'm too old. Ageism is real. My side gig, I'm not going to make what I made. Well, maybe you make a decision to sell your home and downsize a little bit. What is it that you actually need versus what you want, right? I will tell you, my first year, I have self-funded all of my business, and you guys, it was hard. But that's where that faith comes in. That's where that courage that we talked about in the beginning. And thank you for whoever put in your heart. If you keep going, if you network with the right people, you can. And yes, many companies do not succeed. However, not doing what you really love, what's the pain of that versus just doing what you're continuously doing? Isn't that the definition of insanity? How many of you understand that treadmill or that seesaw or that circle of insanity, right? I can't do that because they're going to think. Well, let's talk about that a little bit more. I want you to answer these questions. If you were to switch careers, what would people think? Does it matter what they think? As women, we're pleasers, but the last person that we please sometimes is ourselves. And I love our guys out there, same thing. If you were to switch careers, what would people think? My biggest fear around leaving the company I'm at is, what's that biggest fear? The pressure to figure out my next move makes me loco, makes me excited, makes me what? What does that make you? I'd love to see some things in the chat around this. Increasing my success means I have to sacrifice. If you were to, and how do you define that success? Making more money may make people around me, if you were to actually make more money, how would that affect those around you? And then the last one here. No, that way. I'm afraid to admit blank out loud. So I want you to take a picture of these questions because these are some very specific questions for takeaways that, what would people think if I switched careers? I saw someone in the chat, 36 years as a nurse. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that nurses can do. It's amazing. I want to talk to that person. How many of you let your fear hold you back? Until I didn't anymore. And I leaned into that courage. And I started this group. And I met people like Tonia and Lisa Carmen and Yvette. And I put myself out there, right? I'm afraid to admit that if I didn't do this, that I feel like my life would have continued going down the spiral this way. I had a partner who was very, very supportive because he wanted me to be my best, right? Increasing my success, what does that mean for you? So I want to check the chat and I want to see how everybody's doing. Change is scary and it's risky, but the rewards are amazing. I was talking with my financial advisor last Friday and she said, Chelle, you did your family the biggest service you ever could have done by starting your own business, because there is no cap to what you can make. There is no cap to who you can be. There's no, so it makes you totally psyched. I love that. So whether it's moving into a different career, focusing on something different in your life, when you answer these questions and you really think about what you want versus what you need, there's a big difference. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay. What tasks deplete you? Did you used to love to manage people and that just doesn't float your boat anymore? Because people are messy. Have you never managed or supervised people and you want that experience, right? What percentage of your workday includes those things that deplete you versus increase what you want to do? What tasks do you love? Again, another story. Last Friday, I spoke to someone who's like, women don't support each other. They just bring each other down. That is not true. And I gave her several examples, right? We are here to lift you up. If you are depleted, what is depleting you? What fears do you have? You've got to get really centered around what you want your next chapter to be and assess these types of things. And yes, those personality assessments do help you. And Chat GPT, do I think AI is going to take over my job? No, I don't. Because 60 Minutes 2 weeks ago had an article on how much false information those artificial intelligence things bring you. So just make sure that you're watching out for that. So our hope during this is that we want you to consider, what are those things that you would miss if you walked away from them, from the work you do today? I don't think 29 of you would have been spending time with Tonia and I this afternoon if you were completely happy with what you were doing, right? Those questions that we asked you of the chapter. The focus of today was asking you questions so that you can start to think about those things. And those are our main takeaways today. Are you asking yourself these pertinent and soul-inspired questions? What's your superpower? I want to see in the chat, what is your superpower? Ursula, Susan, Tonia, Linda, what is everyone on the phone? Josh, what's your superpower? And what would people pay you more to do than you're doing now? My superpower is bringing people together, connecting people who would have never connected before, knowing myself so that I can help my clients, whether it be through recruitment consulting or executive coaching. What is yours? Okay, we're getting 8 answers here. Awesome. Connecting. Tonia is Slovan. She can be flexible. Creativity, problem solving. I love this. Building relationships, empathy. Oh my gosh, what awesome superpowers. What is non-negotiable in your next ... in your next relationship, in your next decision, non-negotiable? My non-negotiable is that I have to provide inclusivity and diverse thinking in my community. What is yours? Your absolute non-negotiable. To follow your values. Name a euphoric career high. Like, what was that time that I can tell you mine. My team won CEO Team of the Year Award in 2009 for best team at Quest Diagnostics, Arizona. Oh my gosh, ADHD is a superpower. So is being 61. That's awesome. I love that, right? What are those times the situation made you feel like I am a problem solver? I'm great at project management. I am a connector. Those are the types of things that you need to think through along with those personality or those DISC or Clifton or assessments, right? As a coach, yes, I can learn about what you do and help you figure out that next chapter. My client, Marjorie, came to me, her first meeting with me. She's like, Chelle, I can't do this anymore. I need another job. At the end of her first meeting with me, she's like, I don't want another job. I want to lean into my company, and I made this invention and I wanted to do this. She has found 4 new clients in the past 2 months at the price point she wants, right? Those are non-negotiables. Are you charging enough for what you want to do? Are you making enough? What are your non-negotiables? Okay. Conducting informational interviews. This is a huge piece. My friend Nicole Tricksteinbach, who has been a speaker, she's giving a seminar, and you can go to this View Flowdesk page, interest interviews. Yvette, if you can put that in the chat, I'd really appreciate it. If Yvette is even here, because her, there you go. Thank you. Nicole knows that some of you might be joining. It's free. She's going to talk about interest interviews. She's going to talk about networking, and she's going to talk about how do you build that bravery to take that next step. This is an example of how we support each other, of how we lift people up. Even though she's a career coach, I want you to go and listen to what she has to say, because there's enough room for everyone. And then, how are we doing on time? Really important for you is to have your brand done well. Once you know what your next chapter is, you've got to partner with someone like Lisa Carmen, because your resume is more, your LinkedIn page is more important than your resume. It's your calling card. It's your focus for what you're going to do. All right, we've talked about a lot of different things. What we're really trying to focus on here is there's a lot to assess when you leave corporate. But if you know in your heart that you're not passionate about what you've done in the past, and you have a partner or someone or your best friend, a group, whoever, to help be your cheerleaders when you need it, to help point you in the right direction, and you have that faith in yourself, is it easy? Hell no, it's not easy. Is it easy finding another job? No. But when you know what you want to do, when you take the risk, when you don't care what people think anymore, and you lean into your truth, that's when you can figure out your next chapter. The last thing I'm telling you is it easy? No, it's not easy. But hopefully through this seminar today, through Tonia and I, we've given you some questions that you can start to ask yourself. There have been some things in the chat, whether it's links on interest interviews. Let me give you an example. One of my clients, Kim, 62, completely stressed out, did not want to go back to corporate as a C-suite executive. She started doing interest interviews with other CEOs, with other fractional talent folks, with other people, about nurturing relationships, about what she loved doing. She's now a CEO coach to Christian-based CEOs that make over 5 million, and she's doing amazingly. Another client of mine, her name is also Kim, 61, during COVID, she was laid off during from oil and gas, and she started in the mortgage industry, and she found that role pretty quickly because she figured out her transferable skills. But she's like, Shelley, this is not what I want to do in my next chapter. So she figured out a pain point that oil and gas industries were having during COVID, and she went to all of her contacts. She had 2 offers in one day to solve the pain points. So if you know those pain points and you have a solution to those pain points, that's how you figure out your next chapter. Okay, I am going to move to the question and answer space. And it is what, you know what, I need to close my blinds. Sorry about that, I work out of my, there we go. So we're gonna open it to questions. And my hope is that you got some nuggets of information, whether from Tonia, from me, from our chat. If you haven't joined Colorado Career Connectors yet, we'd love for you to do so. I just met with the CEO and founder of Boss Up, Emily Aries. We are going to be doing some power hours in May and April. And, you know, in our last slide, I mentioned that really knowing your brand and knowing what you want to do. We've got Lisa Carmen and Yvette on the phone with us. If you have questions around branding, or Lisa, if you want to just add anything to what we've talked about, I'd love to hear your voice as well.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Shelley. Thanks for inviting me to speak up, Shelley. Gosh, there's so many things I could talk about. I'm a resume writer and a LinkedIn profile branding expert, and that is what I do. And this is my second act. So we were talking earlier, Shelley, you were discussing about, well, how do you decide what's next? Well, my first act was corporate America for 25 years. My second act is running my resume writing business, and I've been doing that for 12 years now. My third act is when I retire and I focus on writing my book and another passion and gift that I have. So I think for me, trying to define what's next had to do with one of the questions you asked, Chelle, about really focusing on what are you doing when you're at your best, and what does a really good day look like? And to kind of cross-reference that with the question about a personality test like a StrengthsFinders or Myers-Briggs. All my career in my first act, when I was in corporate and trying to be a vice president of human resources and training, I also tried to do finance. I tried to do computer programming. I was trying to fit myself into an INTJ, speaking Myers-Briggs stuff. So a thinker, very structured judger. I was trying to fit myself into that mold because I wanted to do what men can do. I wanted to do what all these men that I knew were doing in corporate. And it wasn't me. I'm an ENFP, which is the most touchy-feely, perceptive, intuitive personality type you can be. So for 25 years, I fought that. But as it turns out, now I'm doing the thing that brings me the most joy, and that is working with people, connecting every day, writing these resumes where I get to be creative. And yes, it is a blast for me. And I mean, there's so much potential for all of you out there. Every one of us has something that we can do that's more than what we're doing today. And maybe you just need to talk with someone like Chelle Johnson, who's an amazing coach, life coach, career coach. She can do it all. Or take a positive intelligence class, something that will help move you from square one to pivot in a new way. And that's what I think positive intelligence can do. So I'm the resume and the LinkedIn expert. Chelle, do you also want me to keep talking about that a little bit?
I really just wanted your perspective on branding. And if you guys can't tell, Lisa and I love each other. We support each other very much. And I can't recommend her enough. I want to open it up to questions. We've been speaking with you, at you. We want to have your voice heard. There's some questions about, I'm 61, I've been a nurse, and I don't know how to switch that. I used to be the head of talent for Quest Diagnostics and Banner Health. I'd love to talk with you. I know how to do that. I've had many nurses as part of that. So I want to hear from the audience. Please don't be shy. Okay, Laura, yes.
I'll turn my video back on for this. I do have some technical issues, which is why I've been keeping it off. For those that are in my age group, 50, 60 plus, and for those that have got any kind of disability, DVR, Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, absolutely fantastic. And also a lot of the workforce centers, depending on which one you go to, have got a lot of funding for retraining for, you've already got a bachelor's degree or you've already got this degree, you've been working in this field, but you need to either update your skills to get back in the field, or you need to pivot off of what you're doing into something else. A lot of times your workforce centers can get funding for you to do that pivot. But DVR can also get you funding to do that pivot.
That's awesome. I can't even tell you, I should have mentioned that. That retraining, when I was at Lockheed Martin, we hired everyone from workforce development to retrain them on how to be electrical engineers or electrical in advanced manufacturing, and also working with AI. A lot of veterans. Rosa Buffalo works at the Jeffco Workforce Development Center, and I'm in a group with the head of Lee Berlinger, who's the head of Workforce Development. I'm trying to get him to come on and have conversations as well. So thank you so much for mentioning DVR and retraining. That local chambers, opportunities on job boards, free events like this, Boulder Net, anything that Nicole Trick-Steinbach gives out. Lots and lots of different arenas for you, but really the biggest one is start having interest interviews and talking to people. There used to be a group in Arizona. See that I'm from Arizona. Sorry. There used to be a group here in Colorado called Rise Collab. It was a women's only workspace. And the head of that, Stacy Taubman, told me that she spoke with 80 people in Denver before she ever put her plan together for what she wanted to do. So get out there. People want to hear from you. And so I think Nicole will have some interesting pieces on that this week. We do lots and lots of seminars around that as well. So if we can help you, let us know. What other questions?
So there was one question in the panel from Lisa L. How do you ensure interview panels are diverse? Can you elaborate just a little bit more on what you'd like to know?
Yeah, I mean, how do you know the interview panel is practicing DEI when you get people on a panel and you only have 2 people and you're not having people from, you know, representing that spectrum? What do you say? It's like, I want a company that practices DEI. And if they're not doing it on the interview, do they not do it in the office?
Yeah, very good question. I think a lot of times, at least from my corporate experience and working with my clients, there's typically a pool of managers that might be interviewing for a particular role. And sometimes if they haven't been trained to interview, it's best not to include them in the interview, because then they could mess things up. They could say the wrong things. They're just not trained, right? Bottom line. I don't know, Chelle, do you have any advice on asking for a particular diverse group? I guess I've not run across that yet.
This is a topic that's usually run by the organizations. And Lisa, I know you well enough to know that that is what you want, but if they have not been trained in that, or if you're going into a technical area, the fact is there just aren't enough women or underrepresented humans in those positions, really depending on, so we have lots of HR people here. Tonia or Susan, do you have any thoughts on that? Tonia Slovan or Susan?
Yeah, the only thing I would add, I mean, I think Shelley and Tonia, you're spot on. It's going to depend on the internal hiring team. And it's also going to differ by department, right? There might be some teams that are more diverse within that company, and therefore the interview panel is going to be very diverse. And there might be some departments that might be working really hard to diversify their team, but they're not quite there yet. And so they have to be authentic in the interview process and make sure that only trained interviewers are the ones that are helping to evaluate talent to bring new team members on. So in my experience, we do whatever we can to diversify the panel, but it has to be based on interviewing criteria, and it has to feel authentic, that we're representing not just the company, but that particular department authentically.
Ursula, do you have any experience here as an HR professional?
I don't do recruiting as part of my repertoire in HR, but as an interviewee, I always, if I know that I'm going to have a panel interview, I ask them, you know, what are the first and last names of the interview panel people? What are their roles? I want their job titles. And then I go on to LinkedIn and I stalk them and I go find out what I can find out, and you can see who they're connected to as well. And it sometimes can give you a better picture of what you're walking into, and then let you kind of decide on, okay, how am I going to broach the subject of diversity at this organization when I'm in the interview? I think it's a great question to ask when they open it up for your questions. So, yeah,
I love it.
Thanks.
So getting back to the next chapter, are there any other questions regarding, like, from the group about, Susan, go ahead. There you go.
Oh, hi, hi, Shelley. I guess it's just really a challenge for me because I want to do something completely different, but it's that challenge of, like you're talking about, what can I do? What can I afford to do? How big of a step back can I take? It is hard to worry about what do people think. I'm trying to let go with that. Because I feel like people do judge you for your title and where you work and what you do. And, you know, to just let go of all that and say, like your person there you're talking about from compensation, I want to go make, you know, cupcakes. It is hard. And I don't know, I'm still working through all your questions and trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. You know, I'm still looking for the corporate job just because, you know, I still feel like there might be some hope, but I've kind of lost hope that I'm going to find the company I really want to work for and the environment with the type of boss that I want after having so many bad experiences, that it's just hard to get excited to do that again, you know, kind of like how you felt when you left Comcast. So I don't know. I still have a lot of, have a lot more questions that I do answers at this point, but you know, I've got to grapple and figure that out.
Most of the people in my community have those questions and have those fears. I talk to people every day that are entering the consulting world and wondering how I do it. What are the tips for it? How did you survive? What is it? So those questions are very personalized, but I know it's growing. There's consultant collabs that Tonia and I know each other through. And we refer people to each other, right? So it really does depend. How many, I can't even tell you how many people are like, I can't find the right boss, the right company, because those bosses are just as stressed out as you are, if not more stressed out. You know?
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't want to go into consulting. I want to do something completely different that people just think I'm totally kind of like the cupcake thing.
Yeah, Susan, let's talk offline. You and I have known each other a long time. I'm happy to do that. Other comments, questions? There was a question in the chat about ageism. And February, we had an entire month of content on how to fight ageism, what the myths are, the stereotypes. If you go on to Colorado or cocareerconnectors.org and you look at past events, you can actually find several webinars on this. There's information that we have from CareerCon on this. So please do look back in month of February, because we talked all about that. We had Janine Vandenberg from Changing the Narrative, who is bringing in legislation to bring ageism questions off of the application process in our ATS system. So, oh, that's right. We didn't record with Janine. Thank you, because that was a lot of, we do have some information on that.
And it's not required on LinkedIn either, as far as like your career, your graduation dates. You don't have to take those off. You know, nobody needs to see that.
So past events are there. There's different groups out there that focus specifically on this, and we tried to bring as much of that into optics and into view in February as we could. And actually, this next chapter is where we got the idea for Tonia and I to talk to you today about this. We're coming up on 1:15. Thank you everyone for showing up, but for showing up for you. We hope that you got nuggets out of this, these questions that you can start to ask yourself. And if it becomes overwhelming, reach out to someone like Tonia, or to me, or Lisa Carmen, or your friends, or whoever you need to. Not staying in that, not pitching a tent in that valley of hyper rational or fear, or I'm not good enough, or I'm too old, or what are people going to think? Am I going to make enough money? Right? So much has changed since COVID. My hope is that you have changed through this. Even a small micro pivot, if we've helped you do that, I will call it a fantastic day. We will have more information on our next event coming up in April. like I said, we are going to be partnering with Emily Aries with Bossed Up with a live event in May. And so that's coming out as well. Thank you so much. It's really good to see a lot of your faces. Be blessed and don't listen to those crappy thoughts. Make them happy thoughts. Thank you so much, Tonia, as well. You did an
Thank you.
amazing
Thanks, Lynn.
job. Nice to meet all of you. We hope to see you at future Colorado Career Connectors.